Tapos, pause. There. Okay. Hi, Mozillians. Magandang araw sa inyo lahat. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. So Bob Ray is here from the Mozilla Philippines community, and we have a special edition of our community meetup, which is online because we are still on lockdown. So for today, we have no less than our Katribo, Miss Rowe Hoffer, to talk about her journey, experiences, and to share things of being a Filipino in the States and in Silicon Valley. So just to start things off, okay, so feel free to unmute your mic if you want to speak. There's a raise hand feature in the Zoom meeting. So this is recorded so that those who missed the meeting today will be able to catch up online later via Facebook and YouTube. Okay, so my name is Bob Reyes. I'm from Makati City, and I'm one of those who represent Mozilla in the Philippines. So let's have a short roll call. So let's start with Kim.
Hi everyone, I'm Kim. So I'm the behind guy. Usually, pre-COVID, I'm the behind guy who takes photos for Mozilla Philippines. And now, since there's COVID, I'm the behind guy, mostly for creative uh, marketing for Mozilla Philippines. And I'm from Laguna, and I'm inside the bubble.
Thank you. Okay, Kim. Let's go to Jake.
Hi, good day. This is Jay Pomperada. Actually, taga Bacolod City po ako sa Negros Occidental. Sa ngayon, nag-work po ako sa adjacent city, Talisay. So, MECQ dito ngayon, wala naman lockdown. So, I'm working right now in Technological University of the Philippines as a science research specialist too. So, along the way, I'm also teaching part-time at Colegio San Agustin, Bacolod. Yun lang po sa self.
Thanks, Jake. Okay, so let's go to Amiel. Hi, Amiel.
Sorry for that. Hi, sir. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Amyal. I'm also from Bacolod. Day job. Most of the day job, I am a software developer for company. I have two companies right now. From one from the US and one for Australia. And then I'm doing localization for Mozilla as well. And yun. Yes. Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Salamat. Let's go to Josh. Hi, Josh.
Hello, good morning everyone. So I'm Josh Tarduque from Cavite City. Actually, this is my first time to attend the online meetups, but I've already joined Mozilla Philippines community as a Firefox student ambassador way back when I was a student. And actually, I saw this event in my email. Mozilla is still sending me emails, so right now I joined, and then day job. So I'm a Scrum product owner at Home Credit Philippines. So that's at BGC. But right now I'm working from home, and also I'm inside the bubble, the MCR Plus. So nice meeting you all.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Maraming salamat. Welcome back. Okay, so let's have who's this? Kevin. Okay, Kevin, are you there? Hello, Kevin.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon.
Hi,
Good
morning ka din.
evening. I'm Kevin and from Makati, an on and off Mozilla localizer for Tagalog. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Salamat, salamat. Let's have Patricia. Morning, Patricia.
Hi, good morning po. I'm Patricia Dorothy Manalang, but you can call me Pat po. I'm from Muntinlupa City, and I'm currently a student at Asia Pacific College. Na-discover ko po yung sa Mozilla kasi po umattend po ako ng event ng Develop PH. So, ayun po. Thank you po.
Oh, maraming salamat. Ako speaker yata doon.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Okay. Let's have Romar.
Yeah, hi. Good morning and good evening, everyone. Hello po, ma'am. Ma'am Rowe. Nice to meet you po. My name is Romar. I'm currently doing regional coordination for Mozilla here in Northern Mindanao. I'm currently based in Cagayan de Oro City. And on my day job, I actually do DevOps systems administration, and I also do. I basically work as a technical project manager as well for one of the BPO companies here in Cagayan de Oro. Also, I also do localization on the side with the group. Thank you.
There. Thank you, Romar. Okay. Mag-aalaga pa ng bata si Romar. And last that we have on the room, si Ronks. Hi, Ronks.
Hello, morning. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hindi ka nga sa work, happy coffee. Yeah, so I'm Ronquillo from just outside the NCR, Cainta Rizal. Although still part ng NCR Plus. I'm a software developer at work, but off work, yeah, I also help in Mozilla's localization for Tagalog. So yeah.
Yun, maraming salamat. So, Ma'am Ro, just to give you a background, so there's this new region, it's called NCR Plus. So NCR is the National Capital Region, Metro Manila. So there's this new one, NCR Plus, which is Metro Manila plus Bulacan, Rizal, Laguna, and Cavite, because we are in one big bubble with millions of people inside. So that's the current community quarantine for NCR Plus. So that's the current lockdown situation. So again, to the people inside the room, I'll be introducing. I'll let Miss Rowe introduce herself. So para she knows how to speak Tagalog pa rin up to this day. So hindi kung meron kayong tanong, feel free to ask her. Yeah, basically, so we will just let her talk, give a background about herself and her journey from the Philippines going to the States. Okay, sige ma'am, take the virtual floor.
Salamat, everybody. So, of course naman, marunong pa rin ako mag-Tagalog. I didn't leave Manila until I was 23. So, kakahiya naman if I don't know how to speak Tagalog. Although sometimes there are words I can't remember. And I don't know if that's only because I'm old or or talagang I don't use the Tagalog words anymore. So, yeah, so I've been with Mozilla for 10 years. I just had my 10-year anniversary beginning of March. And if you're on LinkedIn and if you want to link in with me, there's actually a really special letter that I wrote to Mozilla on my anniversary. It's called My Love Letter to Mozilla. And at first I was hesitant to publish it because I was worried that, I don't know, it felt so like, not calling it out in a bad way, but it felt I'm not so used to making it so known, the feelings that we have at Mozilla, di ba? So anyway, I posted it and got so many positive comments. And Mitchell, my boss who I support, Mitchell Baker, she actually really did appreciate the write-up because it was true and it was from the heart. So read it. It's actually a short read. It's my token of love to Mozilla, whether or not you're a paid staff or not. Kasi diba, the journey has been all together. I mean, I've known Bob for maybe 8-9 years. And shortly after that, one by one, all the other tribo, I call you all my tribo. I always say my tribo in the Philippines. Funny nga parating autocorrect to tribe whenever I type tribo, ginagawang tribe. So, medyo wala akong localization into Tagalog over here. So anyway, 10 years ago, I joined Mozilla. It was a very serendipitous moment because I was working at the Computer History Museum prior to Mozilla. And I remember getting a call from Brett Record, who was our recruiter for Mozilla at that time. And I took the call. I was in the parking lot of the History Museum. And we got to chatting. And I remember asking, so where is this office? And he said, oh, it's in Mountain View. Are you familiar with Mountain View? And I said, oh, yeah, I live in Mountain View. And he said, oh, okay, it's on 650 Castro. And I said, 650 Castro? He said, yeah, do you know it? I said, yeah, I used to work there. So here's the funny story about it. When I worked, my very first corporate job in the US was for a consulting firm. And this consulting firm was at 650 Castro Street, Mountain View. And my office was on the 3rd floor and on the 4th. On the 5th floor was Netscape. So this was before Mozilla even really was a corporation or a foundation. So Mozilla was still within Netscape. And of course, up there on the 5th floor were Mitchell Baker and who else? Asa Dotzler. So all these old Mozillians that you probably know the names of. And I was on the 3rd floor, not even knowing that they were upstairs. I do remember there was one day I had to go upstairs and I knocked on the door, which they kept closed all the time. Kasi I was doing a blood drive. I was trying to recruit more people to donate blood. And the company I was working for, we were smaller and I needed a minimum number of bodies. But anyway, so that's how I knew that there was Netscape above. Plus the fact that all of our engineers at the company I was working for, they were always so excited when they were in an elevator with Jim Barksdale. They would be so, oh, Jim was in the elevator. And there I was going, who the heck is Jim? I had no idea what this Netscape thing was. Anyway, so fast forward, that was probably 1989. 1988, 89, when I was at 650 Castro and Netscape was on top. So fast forward, more jobs in between that time and Mozilla. Anyway, so the recruiter of Mozilla said, would you like to meet the CEO? And I said, okay, well, I'm not really looking for a job, but yeah, sure, why not? So I went in, and at that time, our CEO was Gary Kovacs. So this takes you back to 2011. And Gary and I met, and he was full disclosure. He said, actually, I'm already close to hiring an assistant, but your resume came through and Brett thought I should meet you. So here I am. And so I said, well, no loss. It's always good to meet new people. It's always nice to make a connection. So conversation ended. I left, went back to my environment at the museum. We were so busy. We had just finished the construction of a new exhibit. I don't remember, Bob, Kim, did you go to that exhibit, the Computer History Museum, when you were here?
I happened to pass by, ma'am, pero it was closed that day that I was there.
Oh,
So
sayang.
sayang.
Yeah, but anyway, Computer History Museum has this awesome exhibit of the computing history from the abacus all the way to now. So we had just finished that exhibit. We were doing the gala opening and pardon me. So I stayed at the museum, and then about 2-3 weeks later, eto na naman si Brett calling me. Oh, hey, Rowe, so would you be interested in meeting the chairwoman of Mozilla? And I was thinking to myself, do I? Well, all right, I'll go in. It's not that far. So drove down, and Mitchell, when she walked in, she sat down. And if you happen to know Mitchell well enough, she doesn't have much small talk. She's not a small talk person. So she sat down and she said to me, I really don't know what I would do with you in my office. That was the intro of my interview with her. So there I am sitting there going, in my head, I'm thinking, well, you all called me. I didn't call you. But of course, I didn't say that. So I just said, oh, well, here are the things that I do for previous CEOs and previous chair people. And maybe some will resonate with you and maybe some you haven't even thought about. But here are the things that I could take off your plate. And these are the things that I'm able to produce, blah, blah, blah. So by the end of that, maybe 45 minutes or halfway through, I could see the light bulb going off in her head, kind of going, oh, she can do that for me. Oh, wow, she can do that for me. Because she had never had a full-on assistant before. Prior to my arrival, she had somebody who was sort of helping her out, but not to the extent of a senior executive assistant who really would take the reins and make her life smooth day to day. So I left, and maybe a day after, Harvey Anderson, who was the general counsel at that time, who is now the general counsel at HP, he called and he extended an offer and said, yes, can you please start? And this was medyo bandang early Feb. So I said, sure, this is great. So medyo, back and forth of negotiation. And then he asked, when can you start? And I said, March 1st. He said, can't you come any sooner? So I said, well, you don't just leave a job. So this is one of my things. I don't just say, here's my 2 weeks notice. Because an EA and an executive, that relationship is very tight. That's what makes it successful, and that's what's valuable. So all the things that I know, the intellectual property that I know of my executive, that needs to be transferred over to someone else, right? I just can't say 2 weeks later, bye, and somebody else can pick up a manual and do the job. I mean, no one is indispensable, obviously. Anyone can replace anybody. But there's a lot of nuances to a relationship that's so private. And so for me to say 2 weeks, peace out, that would have been, I don't know, unprofessional to me for the role that I have. So I started on March 1st, and I remember walking in, taking the elevator and thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this feels like I'm going home. This feels like the old house I used to be in, except there's a new family who lives here. It's very strange. So I'm walking around my new area and I'm looking at the old spaces that I used to be in at my very first job. In my very first job, I started off as an office assistant. So basically a gopher. Anything that needed to be done, I was the one. That's why you call it gopher. You go for everything. So here I was walking around thinking, I remember this space. I remember sitting here for many years. I remember this being the reception desk, answering phones. And really that was where I honed the talent and the skill of how it is to be present, how it is to be professional, regardless of how messy your day is, how stressed you are, how unhappy you are about how someone is behaving. You are the face of the company as the receptionist. And that also extends to other things in life, right? There are situations in life where you really just need to put on a face, poker face if you gamble. So anyway, so there's my first day at Mozilla. I remember walking around and I remember being handed my laptop. And at that time, wala pa kaming full-on IT department. This was very early on. I got handed the laptop and I said, okay, how do I find this and how do I find that? And the answer was always, go to the wiki. That was always the answer. Anything you wanted to know about Mozilla, it was go to the wiki. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't even know where the wiki is. So during those times, we really functioned like a startup, even though we were not small at that time. I think it was about 200 people. But everyone was resourceful, thinking on their feet. We didn't have a receptionist. So if you had a delivery or you had to ship something out, you were everything. If I was in the middle of a meeting or typing up something for Mitchell and Mr. FedEx guy came, I was the shipping department. So everything was very much like free flowing, and it was quite unsteady. To me, I had come from big companies. Like I came from NetApp, where when I left, it was 8,000 people. And then I came from something called Hyperion, which became Oracle. So imagine how big that was compared to Mozilla. And everything had its own department for every little action item. And here, all of a sudden, you're just functioning like, what am I today? Receptionist, FedEx person, what? Caterer, name it. So anyway, fast forward, my first month at Mozilla, it felt like you just really had to find ways to insert yourself in several things, or else you would get left behind because everyone was just functioning so fast and everyone was on their own. It was this sort of like chaotic but organized, and it had a purpose, but everyone just knew how to maneuver around each other. Nobody asked for permission. That's the one thing I think that Mozilla taught me. It's better to ask for forgiveness after you try rather than sitting back and letting life pass you by. So to this day, I always think of that. When I'm doubting myself as far as should I do this, I hear in my head what Mitchell says to people. You have to try. You have to make a mistake. Now, if you repeat the same mistake over and over, then there's a problem. If you don't learn from them, if you didn't have a repository of how to do things better for the next time, then we should have a talk about that. So there I was, really uncertain, because also, here's the other thing. Mozilla was not used to having an executive assistant. They saw the role as being too corporate. In fact, they almost fought against it. It wasn't like this big open arms of, hey, welcome, Rowe, so happy you're here. No, they were a little skeptical about what is this assistant going to do? Is this assistant going to be like a blocker? They're going to make everything be a system and a process, which at that time Mozilla was not at all systematic in many things. And that was the beauty of it at that time. It took a while to show people that I was there to be helpful. So I'm not a gatekeeper, I'm not a security guard. I'm actually there to make sure that what they need from the executive can happen sooner or with a clearer and hopefully with more oomph. So I'm not a gatekeeper, I'm the gateway. Diba? So it's two ways. But of course, they're still a little bit hesitant, especially when you say you're supporting Mitchell Baker. There's a status that goes along with the name of Mitchell Baker. And people are sort of hesitant to make themselves so familiar to me. They're thinking, okay, you're sitting in the chairwoman's office. So whatever the reason is, it took a while for people to warm up. But soon after, and a trip to Las Vegas helped because we had a meeting in Las Vegas and all the Mozillians went. And here's a funny story. There was a party that night and we closed out a club, a private party happened. And there was this lone European Mozillian who went on the dance floor and started dancing by himself. But no one wanted to dance. So mag-isa lang siya, nag-solo show. And for me, I don't like leaving anyone kind of alone. You know, I'm the one who will always find the most quiet person and I'll start talking to that quiet person. I don't want anyone feeling uncomfortable. And I think I was also that child that brought home every stray cat or every stray dog. I would just bring them home. But anyway, so there's this one European young employee who started dancing and it felt like, oh, this is awkward. I'm awkward for him. So I thought, okay, I'm the new girl. I'll just go ahead. I'll just dance. So I went up to this guy and I just started dancing with him. And guess who the next person who went on the dance floor was? Guess.
You or Mitchell?
Well, after me.
Mitchell?
After me, Mitchell. Mitchell was the third person on the dance floor and the one who danced for the longest time until the late hours of the night. And when your chairwoman is dancing, what happens? You set a tone. So guess what? Guess who else danced after that? The next slew of people were executives. I have pictures from that night, and you can see the essence of Mozilla in just all these pictures. That there's no like, oh, it's the executive, so I shouldn't be there. You had our IT people, you had all the, at that time, a few executive assistants. There were only 3 of us, I think. and everyone just let loose. So in my head, that's the memory that I carry with me of what Mozilla feels like, even though we've gotten so much bigger and half of the people I don't even know anymore. That's the sad part. When you get big, you don't know everybody. But as soon as the socializing happens, you can still feel it. You can still see it. The taste of Mozilla is still there. Some of you have seen Mitchell in All Hands or when we used to have Moz Camp, right? And you can tell that she cares so deeply about the community. Here's another thing I remember her saying to me from the very beginning, and I say this to every executive assistant we bring on. I remember her saying to me, I was arranging a trip for her. This was a road show to New York to meet with press. And it was in April. So I'm arranging this whole trip. And I said to her that I was going to get her a car and a driver to get from one interview, maybe CNN, to another interview. And she said, oh, it's okay. I'm just going to take the train. No, I'm just going to take the subway or maybe hop in a cab. And I thought to myself, well, that's a recipe for disaster. Because I'm thinking to myself, it's April in New York. It will be rainy. And you have about 45 minutes between every interview. Can you imagine if one ran late or if a taxi cab didn't stop for her? What happens to the rest of the interviews? And I had to convince her. I had to convince her that it would be money well worth spending to get a car and a driver. This is the chairwoman who's saying to me, I'm just going to take the train or hail a cab. And I remember her saying to me, I don't want to operate with a mindset that these things are available to me because we have community members who I never want to feel that the office of the chair doesn't think about how we spend our money when they are working for free. So that's something I remember. To this day, I promise you, to this day, if ever there is something I'm arranging for her or buying for the company or spending, that voice is in my head. So when there are EAs who are frivolous with the budget, I worry about that. And I'm the first one who will say, please remember, be mindful that the office of the chair, this is how we function. So that's not something that I'm lying about or making you as community members feel like, oh wow, ang galing naman ni Mitchell. No, this is true, and this is inherent in me. I live it, I breathe it. In fact, when I joined Mozilla, I thought I better bring my own office supplies. I didn't want to spend the money, so I brought my stapler. I brought my favorite electric puncher. I did not want to ask for anything. And then came to find out, well, of course you have budget to have office supplies. How silly is that? And Mozilla is generous in many other shapes, ways, and forms. And I think you all saw that through the years of All Hands, which unfortunately, because of COVID, we can't get together. But hopefully that will happen soon. COVID willing. And let's see, where else can I go from my story? Oh, and feel free to interrupt me, okay? I don't want to monologue. Since we're a small enough group, just type in or type it on chat if you want Bob to ask the question.
There's this question. What
Yeah.
is the life of an executive assistant in the Silicon Valley?
Fast. So, of course, it also depends on the industry and the size of the company. Also, the level of the executive you're supporting. So the thing is, in Silicon Valley, did I remember when people would used to say faster than a New York minute? I think Silicon Valley has outdone that. I always say this, and I used to say this back in the 90s when the boom was happening. The Silicon Valley second has beat the New York minute. Because my goodness, the pace of how you have to either change gears or ramp up there's not a lot of time allowed or afforded to you. You're just going to do the work. You're going to drink from that fire hose. You're going to land running. And for an EA, if you are at the level of supporting an executive in a C level, the chief executive officer, chief financial officer, chairwoman, by the time you reach that level of support, the baseline of your job of how to be an EA, those should be almost like oxygen you breathe. You don't even think about it anymore. But the difference there is every executive is unique, right? We're all human. So how Mitchell likes, not likes as in because she's a diva, but more of what is the way that Mitchell works? What is the best way to support her? What is going to be the most efficient system so that she can add the value to Mozilla and not waste her time, waste her energy, waste brain space? Executives don't have to tell an executive assistant what those are. A good EA will pick up on those things. A good EA will know to read between the lines. A good EA will feel even just the vibe. I know the vibe of Mitchell as soon as she walks in. Just those little signals that will tell me, okay, either traffic, either something put her in a sort of mindset of distracted or in a hurry. I pick up on those things. And then I adjust. I have to adjust how I approach the day. Because at the end of the day, what you want is your executive to be present and efficient, not distracted. And everyone who meets with her for the day, anything she touches for that day, you have to make sure that she's prepared or she sees people in the best light or she's ready. So a day is never different. In fact, hour per hour is different. And when people say you wear many hats as an executive assistant, I even challenge that. I say, it's not just the hat, it's actually a full on outfit. I change my outfit depending on who I'm talking to, depending on who's walking through the door, depending on the mood of Mitchell, depending on what's necessary, what is needed by the entire executive team, what's happening at Mozilla. Is this employee in distress because of personal situation or something with the manager? You just switch all the time. I call myself a shapeshifter. I shift depending on what is necessary. But that's a good question. And I know that in Silicon Valley, we definitely drive harder, faster, harder. The expectations are higher and bigger. And the role of an EA is not the same as the role of an EA, let's say, in more of a traditional East Coast company. You know, when you think about the big corporations where EAs have been there since they were in their young 20s, and that's where they retire. The mindset is different as well. Yeah.
I asked that question, ma'am, kasi last week I was in this press briefing, and there was this speaker, one of the resource speakers, sabi niya is the Filipinos, especially the startups, they try to compare how Silicon Valley startups work, and the Philippines is like eons away from being a startup like in the Silicon Valley. That's why I asked how does it feels like to be an EA in the Silicon Valley. I also worked for half a decade, I think, here in the Philippines as an EA, and the department managers will call you as the little boss, little big boss, something like that. That I can attest to that. That you need to make decisions on behalf of your
Yep.
boss at times. Yeah. So it's quite hard to juggle between being a subordinate and being
A
to
partner
act.
as well.
Yes, something like that.
Yeah.
So yun, ma'am, kaya
You
I
also
asked
have
that.
to have, yeah, and Bob, you also have to have leadership skills, right? Because you have to have something in you that will make people take action. But you
Yeah.
also have to do it without making them feel like you're bossing them around because you're not the boss.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So the talent there is how do you move a crowd without making them feel like you're moving them? And how do you make the call on a decision that really they're thinking it's not yours to make, but you know enough about it? It's not a decision that you're making for Mitchell. It's more of a decision that you feel will move that action faster. So at the end of the day, it's always leadership who will make the decision.
And it's
And any
always for
assistant,
yeah, sorry. Go ahead, ma'am.
yeah, and any assistant who thinks or feels or behaves like they're part of the executive team, I worry about that. We support an executive, we partner with them, but I will never claim that I'm part of the executive team. First off, that is beyond my pay scale. That is beyond the role that I was brought on for. And if I claim that I'm part of the executive team, that's false.
Cool. Awesome, ma'am.
So if there's no additional question to that, I will continue on with the journey of Mozilla.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
as
Go
you
ahead.
know,
Sige, ma'am.
you know, we've had some rough patches, right? It's not a secret. And we definitely worry about, okay, what is going to happen to the mission? What is going to happen? Because it's getting harder and harder and more expensive to be Mozilla as well. So in order to fight the good fight, we have to have revenue. So that's obviously how a business is run. And that is why we're diversifying and we're innovating. And a lot of people are not understanding what's behind that. So when we had cost cutting, people thought we must be going under or we must not have any money. Well, the cost cutting is so that we can have enough money to innovate because we need to. We can't stay still. We're small. I know we're small and we're mighty, but at the same time, we can't feel or act or build like a small company. And it's harder to do that when you are small because you're competing against such big spenders. And they have all the money to market. They have all the tools. They have every imaginable budget for everything. And when you compare that to Mozilla, we are a little bit more restricted only in the fact that we're smaller, but not because there's any less in the desire or the decisions or the need. So the word small but mighty is definitely true. And to this day, 10 years later, I wear my Mozilla badge with such honor and pride. And I think that's why it's hard to get me to leave. And I promise you, it's not as if no one has tried. So that's also the thing about EAs. When you reach a certain point where you are looked at as the bar set for what a senior EA looks like, there is an abundance of offers or at least tries, attempts to get you to go. And they also, here in Silicon Valley, they see 10 years as too long to be in one place. They almost look at that as that's a negative because the lifespan of Silicon Valley, people jump around because there's always the next big thing happening. Around the corner, there's another new invention or another big breakthrough. People just keep jumping around. But the longevity of people at Mozilla, I can say it's beyond average. And EAs, like I've been there 10 years, the next one is 9, the next one is 8. I think our newest is as a full-time Mozilla employee, yeah, months, but she has been with us for a year. So there's not a lot of jumping off of the Mozilla bridge because we love it here. And beyond the, of course, benefits that Mozilla gives us, it's got soul. There's a heart in what we do. Do we want to make money? Of course. How will we afford to innovate and build wonderful, important things if we don't make money? But if you're coming to Mozilla thinking you're going to retire at 50, no, that's not the place for you. If you're waiting for Mozilla to be sold and you have stock options to cash in on, nope, that's not the place for you. But if you want quality in your life, quality for your family because we are so well balanced. Mitchell is very tuned in to people who are overly stressed, overly worked. She cares deeply. And I said to you earlier, she doesn't waste words. It's not as if she's walking into a room with so many casual chats. But one thing I can say, even though she looks as if she's always busy, inside that persona is really somebody deeply who cares about the people of Mozilla. And that doesn't mean just paid staff. That includes you, community, more than anything. She misses our chances and opportunities of being with community. And I see how happy she is when she sees community members. She makes time for people from the community because she knows it's harder for you because you are so far away from what we are living day to day. So it's important to her that it doesn't get lost in translation between corporation to you. And I personally feel like it's too bad that we don't have Moz camps anymore, because that was such a good drumbeat to have for the company. And I've wondered why we don't do that anymore, because it was such a different vibe than All Hands to actually have an event that's mainly for community members, that we bring ourselves to you versus we bring you to us. So don't worry, I'm working on that. I don't want that to forever go away. What else can I tell you about the journey? It was painful to go through changes. It was a rough patch for so long, for many months of saying goodbye to people you've known for so long. And you basically saw their kids grow up at Mozilla, same as my kids were fixtures at Mozilla. So to get emails one at a time saying goodbye when we had to cost cut, that was rough. But you know, they say once a Mozillian, always a Mozillian. And there are many Mozillians who went and are now doing amazing things on their own, pushing the mission onwards, right, in their own different ways. So that's good. And of course, I'm not naive. There are Mozillians who left or were, unfortunately, we terminated our relationship, who are not happy with us. You can't be everything for everybody. And if you try doing that, you lose sight as well. You can't be everything to everyone. And that's something that also I have to remember, that Mitchell also says. Our job is the mission. We're not just a place of employment, right? So the good part about that is when both collide and it gels, but we're not just your place of work for those of us who work here. There's a mission behind why we come every day, why we show up. I'll leave it at that. I think I haven't, if there's anything I missed, anything that happened with the Mozilla history that I'm not touching upon, please bring it up. Let's talk about that.
Sige, ma'am. So maybe for those who are in the room, do you have any questions for Rowe?
Yeah, any.
Feel free to
Open
unmute.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you're
unmute
too
though, 'cause I
shy,
can't.
yeah. If you're too
Put
shy,
it in
pwede rin sa
chat if
chat.
you're
Yeah.
shy.
Ma'am, out of topic
Yeah,
question.
Kim.
Do you still dance sa Zumba? Instructor ka ba?
Yes, I am. So, okay. A year ago, when we went shelter in place, I will brag about it. I was the very first instructor who went virtual. And I taught those classes, as I still do, for free. So for the last year, all my online classes are free. So that was my contribution to the world that I thought needed something to uplift, needed some form of entertainment, needed an escape even for an hour. So for all of you, you're very much invited. It's at 5:15 my time, so that means it's your morning. Every
7 a.m.
Tuesday.
7, 8 a.m.
Well,
Yeah,
it's your
something.
Wednesday,
Yeah.
7:15 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all you need is, if you're on Facebook, I go on Facebook Live until they shut me down because of music copyright, which they do all the time.
Yes.
All of a sudden, Facebook Live is dead. Like, oh my God. Okay. But the Zoom link is available. Just ping me, find me on Facebook, ask me for the Zoom link. It's a Mozilla Zoom link. I asked for permission from Mitchell actually very soon after we went shelter in place. I went to her and I said, can I teach classes virtually to anyone who wants to come and use the Zoom for Mozilla? And she said, yep, for sure, go for it. So that was a year ago and it's still going. But it's not Zumba anymore, Kim. I call it Vitamin Dance. I started my own dance fitness format about 3 years ago. I got bored with the same music of Zumba. Kasi they make you play music that they choose most of the time. And it's also a particular set of rhythm. It has to belong to the set of dance rhythms that Zumba is built on. I can see why. So I thought, well, what if I don't want to dance that way in the class? What if I wanted to dance hula? So I broke off. I still have my license to teach it, but I teach vitamin dance now. Tell your people.
In the Philippines, ma'am, kasi kahit hindi Zumba ang tawag.
I know, right? Anything that's dance fitness, it's called Zumba, which is, I think that's the pain point of the Zumba home office. That's always conversation we have when we're talking about the license, the unlicensed, the merchandise that's being sold that's not, approved by Beto, by the Zumba guru.
Zumba. I remember, mom, you telling me that years ago when you went here. Parang, that's not Zumba.
Well, also I saw so many merchandise like T-shirts that I was thinking that's not the Zumba logo.
Yeah.
Hey, but anything that makes somebody happy and move, it's important. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Kim, nasagot ba yung tanong mo ni Ma'am Rowe?
IT people needs that day.
Absolutely, everyone does. And anyone who says I don't know how to dance, well, first off, we're all Filipino. We should be able to dance. Diba? Just like we all sing. But it's important. It's also, it's good for the brain. Dance is good for the brain. It's been proven time and time again by so many researchers. It's good for pushing off dementia and the brain stays young. There's a pattern to dance that talks to the brain, makes it retain the elements of healthy brain. So not just your body. Plus it's good for the soul. It's so happy.
Awesome. So, Kim, may tanong ka pa, Kim?
Off topic lang yun eh.
Kahit off topic, it's okay. You can ask me about anything. I'm an open book. If we are friends on Facebook, you'll see. There's somebody teased me and said, Ro, you're so well documented. And I said, what does that mean? Like everything you do, everyone knows about. I said, yep.
The beauty of open source.
Everything I do. Exactly. I'm open. Yeah. And there's something good about that. When my children were very young and they would go to the park with, the yaya, they would go to the park and people would see them, friends that I haven't even talked to in forever. And I remember one of our yayas came home and said, Ro, I can't ever do anything bad to your children because everyone knows them because they see their pictures. So one time at the park, another mom went up to her and said, these are Ro's children, right? Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know Ro. And so, diba, parang it's almost like living in Manila. So this is something that's different here. In Manila, we all have our titas and our titos. You can't ever hide. You can go somewhere and then somebody still sees you and knows what you did. And then it gets back to your parents. It's not that way here. Everyone is so siloed here. Everyone moves too fast. Everyone is doing their own busy thing. I don't think I even know my neighbors.
Yung tawag dito sa Pilipinas, wapakels. Walang
Ano yun?
pakialam. walang pakialaman. Walang pakilamanan, so something like that.
Is that a new thing? But it used to be that everyone had something to say in everything you do.
Maybe depende. If you're someone who's more on westernized, yeah. So medyo ganun. Pero yeah, in general, Filipinos still hindi pa rin. Tarang, lahat ng tungkol sa kapitbahay mo, alam pa rin ng bawat isa.
So I'm going to backtrack. So before I came to the US, I was 23 in 1987. I was in fashion and I was in arts. So who knew I would land in tech, and who knew I would stay in tech? When I first looked for a job in corporate America, it came out of, I realized that the fashion industry in Manila was very, very different from fashion industry here. And I was nowhere near the right geography to be in fashion. I was here in Silicon Valley, and I should be in New York or even LA if I wanted to pursue that. So after a few years of not naman struggling, but realizing this is not the way I know, I decided that I was going to try something else. And then I went back to school and I took interior design. I thought it was just going to be fun. Like I'll just all of a sudden know how to do colors and decorate someone's house. I didn't realize how much work it was going to be. So X again, like oh no, this is not the one. So I tried something else. I even took child education. I thought I was going to be a teacher. And then I quickly realized that I had no patience for children at that time. So I changed course again. And then my very first husband, I say that as if I had many, my first husband said, I see you doing something like an executive assistant to a chief officer somewhere. And I thought in my head, like a secretary? And I thought that's so far from what I see myself, like typing, filing. And he said, that's not how executive assistants are. And this was even in the 90s. So leaps and bounds of how that career has transitioned. But I remember him saying, you would be good at it. I see you doing that. And I never paid attention. So anyway, so fast forward, I wanted to leave retail. I wanted to leave the fashion industry. I wanted to be an actress, but I knew it was too late. So the train of Miss Saigon left me behind. So I saw this little ad in, those local newspapers back in the day. It's not even a real newspaper. It's the one that you pick up from a cafe. So I picked one up, and there was an ad for an office assistant. And I thought, okay, well, it doesn't seem like I would need a whole lot of corporate US experience, so I'll apply. And I remember the interviewer saying to me, the director of HR said, I think you'd be bored, because obviously saw the experience. You'd be bored. And I said, I remember saying this, I said, only stupid people get bored. Said, if you're curious enough and if you have a bit of smarts in you, you'll always find something more to do. So for you to tell me I'll be bored in a job that I haven't even started at, you're already telling me that you're underestimating me. So thankfully, me being that bold, I think nainis kasi ako na parang, why would I be bored? So I was hired. And because I came from fashion and I had all these wonderful suits and dresses, I was the best dressed office assistant. I would be cleaning tables, wiping down whiteboards in my beautiful designer suits. And there's also something to be said about your brand. So here's something that I want to impart on you as well. It doesn't mean your brand is that you're always well suited in your designer labels, but know your brand, protect your brand, upkeep your brand. And that brand needs to also grow with you. It can't be the brand you had from 10 years ago. You have to keep up. I say this to executive assistants who feel that they have nowhere more to go. In fact, when people say to me, so what's next for you? You've been doing this for so long. You're at the top of your ladder in being an EA. So what's next? Chief of staff? I don't want to be chief of staff, not for Mitchell. Mitchell's needs from a chief of staff is something that's beyond what I can give her. I know this about myself and about her. So I always say, just because the title is the same, it doesn't mean my work is the same. Because as soon as you say, I've learned everything, that's the start of the downfall of your career. It can never be that you know everything. Don't trust anyone who says they know it all. Do not trust that person.
Totoo, ma'am.
Diba yung mga all-knowing?
Yeah.
Familiar, sir ba? Familiar.
Familiar. Oy,
Familiar.
meron silang common person in mind.
Ma'am, may sinasabi si Romar sa chat. So you are like real life Emily in Paris.
Yeah, except I'm not in Paris. But you know what? That movie got many criticisms, right? Kasi 'di ba maraming untrue, but it's such an entertaining story. So forget about the things that are not realistic. Like how can someone work in that industry who cannot speak French fluently?
And knowing knowing French people, so
right,
diba?
right. In fact, so my husband sometimes says he wants to move back to Sweden. He's Swedish. And I say, oh, why? Oh, it'll just be easier. It'll be easier for us. And I say, why easier for us? Will I not work? If you move me there, will I just be, donya na lang ba ako? And he said, no, you have to work. And I said, so why will it be easier on me? I don't know your language. And he said, everyone speaks English. I said, yes, but think about this. What CEO will hire an assistant who can't speak in Swedish? Even if he can speak fluent English, imagine the assistant not cluing in, random hallway conversations that's valuable for an assistant to know. The things I hear if I'm getting water. If I can't gather that, what good am I? So even he doesn't understand the role completely. So I'm going to throw back a question at all of you. What's the pain point for the community? Obviously, you don't see us enough. Obviously, we don't have the same amount of get-togethers, but what do you need? Or what would you like at least for us to try? What would you like for me to try and get to happen?
Anyone who wants to go first? I'll go last.
Why? Kasi mahaba yung listahan mo.
Hindi ma'am. Parang kung baka if they miss something, so parang it will be bias kung saan ka magagaling. So anyone who wants to go first? So what do you think, or what other support do we need from the?
Yeah. Okay. Hey, if you say t-shirts, I'll find you t-shirts. It doesn't have to be support. It doesn't have to be so big. Yeah. Just what do you feel like I could help with? Or what is it that you feel, we don't get that kind of attention?
Go wrong.
Ako may isang question. Kailan mo roll out Mozilla VPN?
VPN, I know even I don't have it. Why don't I have it?
Because it's been, what? It's been a year? More than? Tapos ilang initial countries lang? 5 lang, di ba? Or
in Southeast Asia, it's Singapore and Malaysia lang meron.
Malaysia, di ba? Parang may mga nagtatanong na sa for the longest time, kailan mo roll out yung VPN? Kasi when they hear Mozilla, karami ng mga tao pag Mozilla, Firefox, di ba? Pero dahil nga lumabas yung VPN lately, so automatic sa kanila, VPN. So kailan interested sila? Sila mag-avail kasi Mozilla is a trustworthy brand, di ba? Compared to yung mga VPN na kung san lang nakukuha na
Right.
For all you know, kinukuha na lahat ng data mo, di ba? So, yun. So, in as much as I want to promote it, I can't because it's not available yet. So,
Right.
yun.
So, Ronks, what have you heard? Why is it not there? Because I don't know the insides, how it's rolled out. Is there a reason why Malaysia, and did you say Singapore?
Yeah.
Why those two?
Hindi ko alam eh.
Ano ma'am, the feedback that I got when I inquired was it has to go through legal stuff, regulatory stuff, and it takes time for the VPN thing to roll out in a massive scale. So parang I inquired last year around October, November, and the Philippines was not yet listed as one of the something like priority.
So is it priority from our end, or is it because there's something legal and policy-wise in the Philippines itself that keeps us from rolling it out?
I think ma'am, policy and legal thing in the Philippines is nothing. Wala namang ganun akong natatandaan. Pero I think it's more of the priority from the issue side.
Okay. And who was that was it our legal team or was it?
I checked. I think I'd have to go through. It's more of it's a discussion within the tech speakers group.
Okay. Was that with Javi? When Javi
Yeah,
was still with
that time, yeah.
Mozilla? Okay. Oh, I miss Javi.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know the makings and innings of all that, but I'm sure I can have a casual conversation with someone where at least I can glean a little bit more on what the landscape is as far as VPN goes for the Philippines. So you think, Ronks, that being able to roll that out, you would be able to recruit more people, more users?
Yeah. Aside from, using the main product, Firefox browser.
Yeah.
It's a common question, ma'am. Now, if I happen to speak online for schools and events, the question, when will Mozilla VPN be available in the Philippines, always pops out.
Okay.
And actually, I think it's a good opportunity. Kasi, di ba nga, pagaya ngayon, marami mga streaming platform. Yung available lang tong video na to sa US, sa saan. So, I've tried one actually. So, yung mga kaibigan ko sa Hong Kong, isa sa Hong Kong, isa sa UK. Tapos hindi nila magamit yung isang local app kasi Philippines only yung access. So, na-force kami, okay, sige, yung isa na lang, yung ExpressVPN na lang kasi kailangan may access to Philippine IP. So, inisip ko, kung mga ganong use case, pwede. Tapos, yun nga, again, riding on the brand and the trust that goes with it. So,
yeah. Yeah. So the trust, syempre, if it was available, they would pick.
Yes,
they would
definitely.
pick ours. Yeah. Yeah. Let me find out. Wala akong contact with VPN kasi the main guy left. So maghahanap ako ng bagong contact.
Yeah,
same with me. My contact left. So
I know, right? So, yeah.
Because if there's any prioritization that can happen, I think giveaway na kung mabibigyan focus sa Pilipinas eh. Kasi kumpara naman sa ibang lugar, 'di ba? Sa ibang bansa na talagang gusto lang control sa IP mo. Tas bawal tong VPN na to. Sa Pilipinas walang ganoon eh. Kasi sa Pilipinas kahit nga anong VPN pwede mong i-access. Or go na
account. So if anything at all, mas madali i-implement and i-roll out dyan. Kasi as you said, wala namang censorship unlike some other Asian countries, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Siguro ma'am, what I'm thinking is more of I think they need a local partnership, let's say, just to acquire the necessary infrastructure for it to be included in the VPN. Something like that. Baka yung sinasabi ng legalities.
Could be. Yeah. And it's, even though it's been a year now we have VPN, we can't really also say it's been a full year kasi there were so many betas, and I think the only time that talagang we said it's out was when it became available for subscription, right? So I don't
Mm.
know if it's been a full year, Ronks. It feels like it hasn't. Kasi even I don't have it. Why I don't have it, I don't know. But I will definitely I'll have a look-see under the hood and report back to you. Anyone else? Anything? Any question?
Go,
Nothing is
Kim.
closed.
Question lang. So, kasi before po kasi, di ba, nag-handle din ako ng FSAs. So,
Mhm.
I was thinking before kasi pinopromote din namin yung careers. So, I think there's one student that time na nag-try mag-work to the sa Mozilla, nag-apply siya
As intern.
Mhm.
as intern. Parang ang issue lang is I think hindi sila sinuportahan ng school kasi parang I don't know yung reasons behind, nakalimutan ko na. Kasi parang year 2014 pa ata yun.
Nag-iinarte yung school.
Parang
Nag-ano?
Nag-iinarte, ma'am, yung school.
Ano yung iinarte?
The teacher assigned for the internship wants to go to our HQ to check on what will the working environment be.
parang chaperon, ma'am.
Ah,
So
okay.
para maging clear lang siguro yung question, parang kasi may student din tayo dito, si Patricia. Nandiyan pa ba si Patricia?
Mhm.
So parang
I see her.
yeah. So ano po kaya yung magandang parang siguro kahit remote na careers for students for internship para pag nag-promote kunyari Sir Bob, nag-speak ulit siya sa mga school, mas mapapadali yung process na for students na magkaroon ng internship sa Mozilla. Yun lang. Yun yung pinaka-question.
So when we still had this, did we ever have anyone from the Philippines be an intern?
There were several applicants. One was shortlisted. Actually, it was, I think, he was shortlisted by Ben Hirsam himself. The only
Mhm.
thing was that, the school of this student was uncooperative. So to a point that, there's not much time for him to complete the internship if ever he will push through with it.
So what were the obstacles laid out by the school?
One is that the internship OIC wants to go to
Oh,
the
okay.
headquarters at the expense of Mozilla. That's one. Second is that
Yeah.
in the Philippines, the usual setup is on the job training, not internship. So the term and the idea of internship is something relatively new to many schools. And they won't want to let go of the student and be gone for X number of months just to have their internship in the US. But now that since most of us are working remotely, perhaps if headquarters can open the internship remotely, even to those who are not based in the States or in Europe.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So I know that we put a pause on internships. I'm not saying internships like through our community members, but in general, the internships as part of the cost cutting. It's on pause for this year. Combined na rin syempre siguro dahil we're not in the office, so who's going to be closely aligned with the intern? But it's good to know these things. And again, it's because I don't even know how much of this Mitchell knows. I mean, I certainly don't plan on running to her and telling her, oh, and I learned this and I learned that, but there's always a good timing and a good way to bring things up. So I'm sure tomorrow when I sync up with her and I say, oh, I was with the Mozilla Philippines, she'll be very interested to know how are they, what did you talk about, blah, blah, blah. So this is good to know. And I always pose questions to her that sometimes hindi niya alam kung whatever became of that, but it gives her, like a nugget to think about. And I don't even know anymore who of the community people that we used to know are still around. That's the downside of COVID is I don't see people. So unless I specifically seek them out, I don't run into them. That's the sucky part. That's really the hardship of even the role I have is I can't get a feel for how people are doing. Because even to say, oh, let's hang out on Zoom, by the time you show yourself, you've already prepped. There's a part of you that's already conditioned yourself. This is how I'm going to be. Unlike when you catch somebody off guard on your way to get water or lunch. But I like that I'm hearing this from you directly. And whether or not this is something that I can immediately take action on, at least it's in me to say to the appropriate person and appropriate timing. It's always timing. I found that out. Timing is key. And sometimes the answer is not immediately in the result, but in the process. So for sure, don't think I'm, not taking this too hard. I am. Siyempre, I have a soft spot for this community.
Ayun, maraming salamat, ma'am. Sino pa ang may tanong? Romar?
Actually,
Go.
I don't have a question per se, but more like sort of I'm just gonna share yung experience, our experience here, especially in Northern Mindanao, when we started rebooting, having a focusing on having a Mozilla community here in Northern Mindanao. Kasi meron mga volunteers namin dati from Bukidnon, from Iligan, and from Cagayan de Oro who are basically a little bit distant from each other, and at the same time medyo independent kasi yung nila, yung mga efforts nila. And it's just recently when I got accepted by the Mozilla Philippine Community Core to become the regional coordinator. Kumbaga nagkaroon ng renewed effort to establish again the community here, to rebuild the community in Northern Mindanao. And I think in Mindanao na rin kasi Northern Mindanao lang ngayon in the entire island of Mindanao merong regional coordinator. Kumbaga ako lang at the moment. I'm just gonna share yung sort of medyo a little bit of an uphill battle to get to solicit more volunteers to join the effort in promoting openness, in promoting security, and promoting, of course, Mozilla and Firefox and the plethora of products that we have available for all the users. Medyo uphill lang talaga yung battle because of course, the other communities that are already present, here locally. We have communities from Microsoft, communities from Google, and other communities as well from other tech community, from other efforts from other tech companies as well. Medyo I'm not sure if this is the right word, pero parang medyo na-spoiled yung ibang community volunteers, that na-spoil sila that these other communities and their efforts have deeper pockets, like they can spoil them with, like, whenever they have even a small event, they can have swags and all that, and we don't have that luxury. And we just, we always make it a point, like Bob and Kim and Rongs, we always make it a point to inform them that Mozilla, the community of Mozilla here in the Philippines, are basically running lean, and we are focusing more on the quality of the people that we have in the community. And yun nga lang is that some volunteers are kind of expecting that ay magkakaroon ng swags, yung mga ganon. The upside though is that we are able to get talaga dedicated people. We are able to get dedicated people to be part of our communities here. And yun lang, medyo apilabato lang kasi minsan even yung mga good people na mga good volunteers namin napupoach. So napupoach din. So yun yung medyo ano namin. But we're still
that's not new. That's not something I hadn't heard before. So unfortunately, right? It's that same sort of how do you fight against the ones with so much in their budget and in their pocket? And in as much as we can say, yeah, but look at the mission you're supporting and the life you want the world to live in online. These are all great and they're all sincere and they're true. But as you said, something shiny is over here attracting them. It's hard to fight the shiny, bright, new things. So I don't know how it runs, how you get budget or swag from. Is there a process, Bob? Is there how does that work? How do you get swag? How do you get funding? How does that work?
Via the Mozilla Reps program, ma'am. So currently there
Okay.
are 3 in the Philippines. So it's me, Kim, and Frederick. But Frederick is now based in UAE. So
Mm,
we have access to that, except that yeah, it's hard to organize events now that we are able to send swags because due to the community quarantine limitations then. So one, it will be
mm-hmm,
costly for headquarters to send us the swags. That's why sometimes I opt them to be created locally. But the quality is not at par of what we are
mm-hmm.
giving away. Second is that the challenge of distributing the swags, we will just end up spending more on the logistics than on the swag itself.
Yeah. But under any normal circumstance, if you could still hold events in person, that is how you usually
Yes, ma'am.
distribute. And that's
Mm-mm.
is that the pull? Is that what people come for? Is the swag?
We
I mean,
try
that's your kind of that's your seller. That's your PR.
we try not to sell the events something like that because we cannot compete with the bigger companies, with the bigger tech
Got it.
companies. Uh,
So what is your biggest draw? How do you make people come? The mission and the reputation of Mozilla.
the name of the organization. So many people
Yes.
won't even know that we are a non-profit organization. So every time that
Mm-hmm.
we speak about the organization and tell them that we are a non-profit, we get those big eyes saying that, okay, you're a non-profit. And when they thought that we are as big as the big companies.
Right.
Right, right, right.
Uh, I had this
Okay.
experience last year, right, Bob? That was like around February when I had a talk when I went to Osami City and talked about Mozilla. And when they learned that we are an open source company and of course a foundation besides, they were really shocked. And I told them that it might be normal for them to see other tech communities who are handing out swags to them, but I informed the students that we don't have that. That's not normal for us. Swags aren't normal for us. The most important thing for us is advocating the Mozilla ethos,
Mm-hmm.
the manifesto that we have, making sure that all of us are safe whenever we go online, and that information that we
Mm-hmm.
need to access on the internet are available to us each and every time. So they were
Mm-hmm.
like, "Wow." So um, and putting emphasis always on the people that are running the communities, working for the communities, not only here in the Philippines but also in the US and worldwide. So
Yeah. Can I ask you though, is there an appetite for safety online? Do people understand what we say when we say safety online, open, transparent, privacy? Because
mm,
I have to say, is that something that everyone knows, or mostly only us of the tech industry? Because I have friends who think when I say data privacy and to worry about that, they immediately think, oh, somebody hacked into my bank account. Well, or, oh, well, somebody's using my name. That's all they think about. So is there enough education there to where the gravity of what that means is beyond what they think? Oh, they hacked into my bank account. That's all they know when you say safety.
mm. um the education part is already there. We here locally we've been doing our best to educate people. We can't say that
most of the people already know that they need to be secure, but a lot of people are already realizing that the internet really is a nasty place as it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
So when the first release of the browser, the Firefox browser that already included default blocks and more stringent security features already, people got curious, and that's also our basically the selling point that we that we tell people that compared to other browsers, what we have right now is actually golden when it comes to
Right.
basic online security for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also told Bob I actually did a survey at the office I work in on my 9 to 5 that a lot of users are still actually using other browsers. They're not using Firefox. Like only a fraction of the people are actually using Firefox as their main browser. But I told Bob that um, for the moment, probably we'll start from where we have direct access to for people and educating them. My family is actually using Firefox all of the time. Friends that I have here, I also educate them. But yeah, the main thing is that um, when I joined Mozilla Philippines, primary focus really is to advocate how to stay secure online and telling people the small community that we've started again here in Northern Mindanao, yun yung pinaka-focus namin palagi is that the current state of our browser at the moment is the best that we can have in terms of security compared to other browsers. So yeah, it's still I still can say na it's an uphill battle, but a lot of people now are more aware compared to like last year. Like last year, people aren't really that totally aware yet that the internet is a nasty place. But gradually, we are able to reach out to a lot of people, especially here.
Well, that's the interesting part too. The reason that more people are aware that the internet could be a very dark, nasty place is because a lot of dark, nasty things are happening.
Yes.
So it's been right. It's everyone now is aware of, oh my gosh, that scandal, this scandal, that Mark Zuckerberg is again in Washington D.C. being being interrogated today. Yeah, testifying. Won't admit, but anyway.
We're ma'am,
So, no.
it's like we're getting there. It's just more of more on information and educating people that these things happen, that they need to protect themselves. Especially during when the first lockdown was initiated a year ago, when local government units started handing out this. We have this thing called quarantine passes. So in order for you to go out, buy stuff, you need to have this pass with your name, your address, and contact numbers. And people started bragging that, hey, I have this with all their information online.
Oh my gosh. Taking pictures.
Yeah, so taking selfies with their it's like inviting the bad actors that, hey, come to our house, this is my address, this is my name, this is my basic information, something like that. So I think we were the first organization to call out and ask people not to post this kind of information online. And yeah, we're so happy because even the National Privacy Commission of the Philippines reposted our announcement, our call.
Good.
So yeah,
yeah.
In as much as we would want to help the government, so some government agencies, they're too hard-headed. The National Privacy Commission is manned by just a little pool of people, and yeah, they need most of the help. That's why actually, ma'am, I have something on my email draft. We need help from the policy people,
Okay.
our policy team, on different things, especially that elections is coming a year away from now. So what will be the best thing to do that we can involve the community?
Yeah, can you send me that?
Yes, ma'am. It's also already in my draft. Maybe I'll finish it later I started over the weekend. I'm trying to to contact the policy people that I know, but they're no longer part of the organization.
I know, I tell you, even I sometimes I'm looking for someone and it's one of those, what happened? They're not on the people directory.
Yeah, I'm checking the people directory. And, oh, they're no longer there.
Yeah,
I have
I
access to the
know.
directory.
Yeah, I know. I know. Most of the people who left I heard from, but there are people who just didn't want to reach out, and we have to respect that, right? They didn't
Mhm.
want to make a big fuss out of their departure.
So
But
my
you know,
go, ma'am, go.
the the thing that I worry about is because this community, you're so tuned in into tech, right? You know the lingo, you know the verbiage, but there are many in very, I would say, relevant and even impactful positions or families in the Philippines that they themselves don't know what the heck it means to be safekeeping privacy online and all that. I run into it with classmates of mine from high school where they answer these questions on Facebook that, yeah, they're fun, but you know that there's a reason why those quizzes were created, right? And I'm always saying, do not answer these questions. Do not do these facial recognition things. There's a reason why those were created. And every time you click on something, your data went to 3 other websites. And I see their faces glaze over, their eyes just glaze over. And it's like one of those, I am not able to communicate in that way. And I just wonder, how do you battle that? How do you combat this whole, as soon as they hear the technology words for the lay people, the ones who are not like you, who know what's happening, there's this, like, they close off. And I wonder sometimes, is it because we're too technical? Is there an example you can do in the way that the Filipino public will accept it? What's palatable? What's easy to digest?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, ma'am. If we can show it, we can present it in such a way that that they can relate to it, then
Yeah,
it will be
something
more effective.
relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions, topics you want to talk about?
Because for the past 2 3 weeks, I've been trying to search who's the best person to speak with related to policies and yeah,
Well, I can
especially
help you with that.
yeah.
I'll 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 start from Amy Keating. How's that?
Hmm,
Our chief legal officer.
cool. Maraming salamat po.
I can definitely ask her who the best person is that can help us out with even the initial conversation.
Kasi this will be something big, especially now that the Commission on Elections is thinking of having a what something like an online campaign. People will not candidates will not be allowed to campaign in person. Everything will be online.
Oh boy. Whew.
So how do we fight
That
misinformation, fake news, disinformation,
whew.
etc.?
That's a big one. Prepare yourselves, Tribo. There's a question from Patricia.
Yes, ma'am. So hi everyone. I'm currently part of an organization in our school that focuses in security in general. And we will have school festival around April and May. I'm wondering if I can ask any of you to be a resource speaker for my org with a talk about internet security. Yes.
Yay.
Yes.
See, you have a volunteer already.
Yeah. If you can go to our website, there's a form there that you need to fill up so that we can get the information about your event, what do you need from the local community, so that we can assign the proper person to talk about on your event. So we will be gladly to accommodate it. That's what we do.
And I have a call out. I tried to do this on my own a few months ago. So a few of you might know or might have seen, I'm trying to be very, very uplifting of the EA career here in the US. Well, not really here in the US. What I want to have happen is uplift this executive assistant role to be a full-on career that it is deserving to be. And it made me think about, what is the EA landscape in the Philippines? What does that look like? Is it at the same function, the same level, the same status, the same pace scale? I know it's not, but is it a career that people think is lucrative, is fulfilling, important? What does the EA world look like in the Philippines?
It depends on the industry, ma'am. So maybe
Okay.
for the tech industry, it may be patterned to what EAs of the United States or the Europe are. But for the older, for the traditional industries, medyo yung pa rin yung EA is equals to secretary, not
Secretary.
Yeah.
So the younger generation, like Patricia, who's still in school, is it even a thought that the EA career is a very lucrative and can be a very prominent career in the Philippines? And if it's not, how do we make it so?
It's more
that's where I'm at.
It's more of kasi the way businesses and organizations adapt with with the new normal that we will call soon. So something like that. For me personally, it's depending on many aspects. So parang not until the Philippines has come has get over that thing that an EA is not equal to a secretary, we will not
Right. It's the stigma. The stigma is still that, oh, you're a secretary, or all you do is admin stuff. And that's what I wanted to explore, is how to bring the light that it is not that, and to make it a career goal for so many, because obviously I've been very lucky in it. And if I am doing such outreach that's making an impact everywhere else, but not in the Philippines, why am I not focusing on the Philippines? But I tried to do it. I tried to find EAs through LinkedIn in the Philippines, and there weren't many. If I search executive assistant Manila or Philippines, I could not find many. I found one, and she was out of a job, so she couldn't even connect me with the right people. So if ever you in your movements and in your travels, in school, in your chats with people, I just want to know how to develop, a tribo for EAs who will come from where I'm from.
What we have here what we have many in the Philippines are VAs, virtual assistants.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? There's something to be said about that too. And there's something to be said about those VAs being able to compete with VAs who are here in the US, because there are a lot of VAs or executive assistants who have turned into VAs.
It's a thriving industry here in the Philippines.
I know, for sure.
I know friends having their own agencies for VAs supplying to outside of the Philippines.
I'll talk to you about that separately, Bob, because I want to grow that mindset of what a real senior EA, even if it's a virtual EA, there's representation from the Philippines. It's important.
Sure, ma'am. Sige, ma'am. Let's work on that.
Okay.
Sino pang
Anything
may tanong?
else?
Last call. Jake, Kim, Ronks, it's Patricia. So I hope we answered the question. Feel free to ping me anytime, Patricia, about your event. Romar, Raymil. Oh, Raymil is here. Hi, Raymil. Anton. Hi, Anton. Kevin Cap, Kevin K, and Amil. Sino may tanong? I spoke, ma'am, kasi last week, I think, this month, I spoke with in a webinar hosted by Develop. So Patricia is a member of that organization, I think. So the main organizer is a girl from Yale University, Filipina.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. See, we're taking over the world. No, as we can. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, just find me there.
That's
Or
the best
Facebook,
way.
if
Yeah.
you want.
So what I normally do is I check the directory. If I cannot find anyone in the directory, I go to LinkedIn, and then you will see that they're no longer with the organization.
I know.
So sad. Yeah.
And please, anytime that there's something that I can join, if there's any event that you find might be beneficial to you to have me, even if it's just me on one of the tiles listening.
Ano ma'am?
Please
Yeah.
invite me.
Separate email for another event. Sige. I have this yeah. It's a national online event. Kim knows it. Pero yeah. Sige. I'll let you know, ma'am.
Yep, for sure. I'm here for you guys, for my tribo.
Ayun. So kung wala nang tanong, maraming salamat.
Wala na kayong
Rome.
tanong, kakain na ako.
Yes, ma'am. So dito sa amin, past almusal time. So dyan sa dinner time. Maraming salamat muli. So uulitin.
So uulitin, anytime. Anytime. If you're willing to wake up early, I'm willing to join you anytime.
Yeah. So send our regards to Mitchell and to the rest of
I will.
Mozillas. Yeah. And ilan po. So this ends our meetup for this month. Happy Women's Month. Happy anniversary to the Philippine Internet. And yeah, ingat kayong lahat. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.